Hi, Evil fans! Welcome back to Tori Talks TV. I'm Tori.
And I'm Dr. S.
Today we'll be discussing Evil, Season 3, Episode 5. It's called The Angel of Warning. We have gotten away from the demons. Not really, though. But in the titles, this Angel of Warning is a very interesting storyline. So it starts with David being called to the scene of the aftermath of a building collapse and this disaster, right? I love that everybody kept telling him to put his collar on. He's like, I just woke up. I just was called out of bed.
That was so funny. He gets that little piece of paper, like a white Post-it or something.
Yeah, he's like, fine.
Yeah.
And
then they're like, oh, okay, I need to tell you now.
Yeah, now I can tell you because you have your collar on. There's something very interesting that has come out of this disaster. First, it starts with this girl named Kelly, who is from the 11th floor, and says she survived because a woman carrying a lamb led her out. Yes. I'm trying to think now because our awesome viewers are always pointing out little details like 11th floor. I'm like, does 11 mean something? Because then there's a man from a 6th floor, and he has the same story about the woman with. So I'm like, 11 and 6. Still couldn't figure anything out, but if you do.
Yeah, I was looking at the board with all the Post-its and then the red dots, and there were 3 under the number 11, and they didn't have red dots. So I thought it was going to be something about the 11 also, but then
didn't really go anywhere. Yeah. So when the team gets together to discuss this, I always love everybody's perspective. Kristen's perspective is something called impending doom syndrome, which you being a new psychologist, have you heard anything about this?
I have not heard of that.
The only time that I've kind of heard something similar is as a nurse sometimes when people feel like they can't breathe, they say it's a feeling of impending doom. But that's about all I could really connect with my very little knowledge of that. But that's interesting, and I want to read more about impending. But they kind of dismiss that. After that, she's like, I don't think it is that anymore. But I mean, she does have something similar happen to her at 11:30 p.m. What does it mean? I don't know. She hears a whisper, someone saying, watch out. But then crazy Grandma Cheryl is like, no, I used to have nightmares like that all the time as a little girl. But why did that? They just said it and they left it alone. So we've got to remember all this stuff because it will come back.
You're right. I think so too.
So the church thinks that this woman or angel who led them out is the Sicilian nun who died in 1950, Sister Mary. Again, they kind of don't really go anywhere with that after a while. We'll get to that in a little bit. But all of this stuff is making the girls very edgy. Little do they know that this misinformation that's being spread about this building collapse disaster is because of their crazy Grandma Cheryl.
Yes.
Who's just doing all the dooms. What is it?
Doom scrolling. And she also threw out Andy again. She's the only person who raises the topic of Andy. Do you notice that?
Yes, because your theory was so brilliant last episode. So they call Andy, and again, it's just as
super sus,
odd, and suspicious.
Yeah, and then goes to static because that's how FaceTimes end.
Yeah,
with static, but it is it's so suspicious.
He offers no comfort to these little girls in the middle of the night. There's nothing he can do about it, and I know he's on. And Kristen is trying to be like, oh no, you don't get 5G over there, at the base of a mountain or whatever. Yeah. So, but you're right. There is something, and I feel like he's always looking off camera,
He's either captive or dead already, and that's just old footage.
Yeah. It's scary. Okay, let's go back to Crazy Grandma Cheryl because this was an interesting episode for her. So at work, she wants to make sure that Leland is not getting the credit for the macabre success, right? So she, along with her new assistant, who I actually really like.
I like her too.
Yeah.
I like that she's on Cheryl's side. Is that crazy?
And she stood up to Leland.
Yes.
It is crazy because
she's crazy Grandma Cheryl.
She's crazy Grandma Cheryl.
She's not good yet. No? I mean, I suspect that she's going to turn the side of her family.
Yeah.
She's going to choose family.
Yes, exactly. And I said, I think she's doing all this to protect her family. She's getting on their side, their good side, Leland's good side, to
I hope so.
protect her from him.
Yes.
And all of his many minions. So she's got to go see the manager. And I don't know what I was expecting when she walked into the manager's office, but it wasn't that.
I don't know what I was suspecting either. I kind of thought maybe Edward was going to be in there.
Okay.
And they were trying to... I don't know. I don't know why I thought that. But then...
Last thing you think is a five-eyed, horned beast. Hairy, stinky, horny.
What about the little biscuits, though? Did that not make you think of Biscuits with Boss, Ted Lasso?
Okay, she has biscuits in a pink little box. It's just like Ted Lasso.
It's totally a reference to Ted. It's like the polar opposite show to Ted Lasso, though, isn't it?
Isn't it weird? And I'm like,
that's what's so funny.
Crazy Grandma Cheryl, do you watch Ted Lasso? And then she asks a coworker, like, hey, when you see the manager, what do you see? And then they say something like Ted Danson from The Good Place, which is interesting because he plays a demon in The Good Place.
Oh, yes.
It's an interesting reference. A demon in a human suit, right? So that was an interesting little reference there. Again, opposite.
Can we also just pause for a moment on how the manager eats the biscuits?
It actually is vile and
spits the
I don't get it.
stomach acid. All I remember is the movie The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, and like flies have to vomit on their food so that the acids can begin to digest it, and then they eat it up.
Ugh.
That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
It was really gross, but so well done.
It's so well done for his weird, nasty character. Yeah.
On the elliptical too.
Well, whatever she thought about him and whatever steps she took, she was promoted. Yeah. So she's now head of misinformation. Good for her. But then she asked Leland, like, what do you see when you see the manager? And he's like, well, what do you see? So basically she's like, I think I'm having a psychotic breakdown. And he's like, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And shakes her hand. Welcome to this side of things. So that's so interesting. Is it like only certain people can see them in their demon form? Like Sister Andrea can see the demon form? Isn't it interesting? It
must be, right? But so, again, though, she didn't used to see them, but then they started pumping her with, like, the formaldehyde or whatever they were. Yes, the juice.
The demon juice.
Of her knee. So then, slowly but surely, that, in addition to the way they've been treating her, like, the whole, like, intimidation and making her feel, like, inferior, the way Leland does, did that then all of a sudden make her able to see the demons?
Isn't that interesting?
It's so interesting. She just teeters on that, like, one moment she's intimidated by him and the next moment she takes over. She does that every episode.
Which makes her pretty fun to watch. Yes. I know I call her Crazy Grandma Cheryl because she is, but she's one of the most interesting people. Yeah. Her through lines, where she is going.
And she was wearing, like, animal print on animal print.
I didn't notice that.
It's like a leopard dress with a leopard blazer. Like, no one pulls that off like Christine Lottie.
Because she is...
Yes.
Well, she's like the queen of television, isn't
fabulous.
She? Yeah. Okay, so back to a completely different side of this episode. So later on, another survivor who said she was let out by an angel, when they say, is this drawing, is this like what you saw? It was a picture of the nun, Sister Mary. She's like, no, and they said, well, why not? And they said, because her angel was black, right? And this woman is a black lady. So it starts this whole conversation with David about if his visions are all influenced by religious art, which is usually white. Right? Then he isn't having visions of God. You know what I mean? And maybe it's just all his subconscious. Yes. So it's so fascinating.
It was so
because
fascinating.
He used to see those little portal opens up, right?
The tear in the fabric of the universe.
Yeah. They're white, but then now he's starting to see them as black.
Yeah. That was fascinating.
I know, and I love when he brings up racism in the church. I love it, because he's like, why is the church afraid of black angels? Why is black
and they were like, not going to talk about
significant of evil?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that was so good.
And they don't want to talk about it, do they? Yeah.
They don't at all. And even Sister Andrea was like, no.
She was dismissive at first, because that is what she is taught. Yes. She comes around and apologizes, thankfully, because I love her.
Wasn't that beautiful how she said that?
Yes.
I love her. I was beginning to be a little wary of her. And then she did that. She kind of acknowledged her own privilege and her position.
Which we all could bear to do, maybe a little bit. Yeah. And
it's because she has a connection to a person of color who a lot of people don't, right? So if she didn't, she would still be from that position of privilege and not acknowledge it. So it's really about just getting to know people.
Let's just keep it simple. Just get to know people.
Yeah. You're afraid because you don't know. But once you get to know, you're like, no.
And you also don't know what they're going through.
And it's okay to say, I was wrong. There's no shame in that.
It's big. It's amazing. It's freeing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, David does have another task here, and that's to defend Sister Andrea in the tribunal, right? So he was saying, oh, well, I also see demons, so you're going to say that's blasphemy? You're really going to have me resign when I'm only one of 3 black priests ordained this year? Throw a little statistic out for you. You know what I mean?
That was so good.
He's doing it so well. He's playing it.
It was perfectly. It was perfectly. It was like playing the race carpet in a good way.
I know.
I was like, dang.
It was
because obviously they don't want that on their report card.
Right.
Oh, that was so good.
Just sticking it to them, but not in a
now he's kind of has that armor too.
Yes.
They kind of can't touch him.
He's going to feel a little invincible, Well, and then the episode ends with Sister Andrea seeing George, the demon. kind of missed him. I don't know why, but I really get a kick out of
He's
George.
funny.
He's funny. He is, right? One other thing I wanted to point out was Jessica, the big fat faker. She's not fat. I'm sorry. I just say that sometimes. She says that the doom that our trio feels is justified. And the way they filmed it, it's like she's looking at us saying it. Like, hey, you know, like that's that awful, unsettling feeling you feel. Yeah. And she's like, basically like, your side is losing.
We get called out a lot. I think like there was another line where
Freaked me out.
Kristen said to her daughters, no doom scrolling before whatever noon. And I was like, oh shoot, like I do that all the time.
You're like,
yeah. First thing I do is pick up my phone and start seeing
yes, ma'am.
all the bad stuff that's happening in the world. Like, what a great way to set your intention for the day.
I know. That's gonna start the day off right, and then it's gonna be the theme for the day. So. Yes. You're looking at us, and I see it, and I see it, and I feel it, and
that's
I'm not going to let.
First step to changing.
I won't let awareness. Your side win. Yes, exactly. All right. Well, that wraps up this episode of Evil. So comment below and like and subscribe, and then we will see you next time. Bye-bye.